p.m., July 1944. In the ruined streets of Briac, the Germans are fighting with desperate ferocity, and a single StuG 3 has already knocked out several American Shermans. Turning onto a narrow street, the StuG suddenly spots another Sherman lurking by the corner of a shattered cafe. Only this one looks wrong. Its entire bow is covered in bolted spare tracks. The German gunner hesitates, then fires where he always fires. The round slams into the track armor and skitters off in a wild ricochet. The Sherman answers twice, first a shot, then a second round, that punches through the StuG's fuel tank, igniting it and leaving the assault gun burning where it stops. 3 weeks before it, Sergeant Walter Halvorsen, 66th Armored Regiment, stands with his crew at the outskirts of the town. He's being told that many American tanks are being blown to pieces by German tank destroyers. He wonders how he could add some extra armor. And just then, a battered, half-wrecked Sherman is brought into his unit. He stares at the hole on the knocked-out tank's lower plate entry the size of a fist, exit like a door. Then, he looks at the pile of spare track links on his engine deck and thinks, armor we're not using. He drags 6 end connectors and 12 standard 17-inch track links off a dead Sherman with the company wrecker. He steals 2 pieces of angle iron from an abandoned French hay rake. He has Corporal Eddie Rizzo, a welder before the war, cut track pins into 4-inch bolts. Then he chalks rectangles on his own hull, 1 band across the upper glacis under the driver's visor, another band across the lower plate just above the towing lugs. He wants 2 problems for every German gunner: wrong range estimation and wrong slope. They work in a pasture under artillery hiss. Rizzo stitch welds angle iron into shallow channels on the hull, low heat so they don't warp the plate. Private Shortyvale holds the links, while Halvorsen drives cut pins through connector holes into the channels, peening them flat with a sledge. A GI from the 82nd Airborne walks by, frowns. That gonna help? Halvorsen doesn't look up. It's steel. Steel helps. By dusk, Calamity Jane Times wears a rib cage, 2 staggered rows of extra tracks on the face, 3 links apiece over the bow MG collar, an odd one hung vertical like a shield, where the lower plate meets the final drives. On the starboard cheek, 2 more links sit as cheek applique, slanting to turn a shot. It looks ugly. It looks heavy. It looks like a dare. At first light, they nose out of the lane toward Le Mesnil-Hermann. A Panzer IV-J opens up from a farm courtyard. First round rushed, second round true. Halvorsen sees it come black dot, flash, then a hammer blow on the bow that rattles teeth but doesn't bite. The tank shudders. The spare link where the lower glacis meets the towing lug jumps, cracks, and stays. The radio explodes with voices. "Hit front, no pen, no pen," Rizzo yells, half laughing, half crying. Vale jams another AP in the 76's breech. Gunner Wally Pierce takes the quarter-second he buys and walks an AP round into the Panzer's mantlet. The German backs blind into a stone trough and dies on the 3rd shot. After action at noon is a crowd around Calamity Jane's nose. There's a smashed track link with a bright scar where German AP dug in and flattened. Behind it, Sherman armor is scuffed, not holed. The impact normal was wrecked by the stacked links. The shot yawed a degree, lost tip, bit angle, and failed. Halvorsen peels the bent connector off with a pry bar and bolts a fresh one on, while the battalion XO watches silently. The XO breaks first. "How many links do you need?" Halvorsen doesn't play coy. "Enough for every bow in the company, upper and lower. Cheeks, if you've got 'em." That night, the maintenance platoon raids every knocked-out hull on the regimental trail. By morning, C Company Shermans roll with jaws of steel track links bolted in 2 belts across their faces. Word spreads down the column and sideways across divisions. Men don't need a memo. They need to live. In 2 days, the 3rd Armored near Tessy-sur-Vire copies the trick. In 4, The 4th Armored at Coutances is wearing brickle lips, as a Texan in the 37th Tank Battalion calls them. The field mod has no designation, no bulletin, just a reason. The enemy aims here. Make here harder. August 1st, 1944. Marigny-Saint-Gilles Road. C Company pushes past smashed orchards, Shermans wearing crooked grins of bolted track. The battalion ordnance officer, Captain Leland Hooper, slide rule in his breast pocket, oil under his nails, flags down Calamity Jane at a crossroads. He runs a gloved hand over the scarred link on her nose and shakes his head. You can't just hang junk on a glacis and call it armor. Halvorsen keeps it polite. Sir, it caught a Pack 40 at 300 yesterday. We're still here. Hooper squints, chalks a line on the upper plate. 2 inches at 56 degrees gives you about 3.6 inches line of sight. That German APCBC round PZGR 39 punches that at 400 yards. Your links are just... He raps them with his knuckles. Hears that high, hard clang of heat-treated manganese. He stops mid-sentence. It's not just weight, it's standoff. A cap breaker, a slope spoiler. He knows the theory. Disrupt the armor-piercing cap, tilt the impact, force yaw, steal velocity before the main plate. How thick did you say the stack is? 1.5 inches, sir. With air gaps. Rizzo taps the angle iron channel with his welding rod. Not welded solid. Floats. Let's a hit move. Hooper tests his skepticism the only way that counts. He requisitions a wrecked Sherman pulled into a hedgerow and bolts a 4-link panel on its upper plate. 300 yards down a lane, a captured PAK-40 sits in American hands, with an ordnance crew itching to shoot something that won't shoot back. They fire one capped AP at bare plate clean penetration, daylight in the driver's compartment. They fire the second at the track panel. On impact, the cap shatters, the nose yaws, and the round skips up at a bad angle, gouging but failing to hole. The third hits the edge of a connector, breaks its tip, and buries itself harmlessly in the driver's hood, casting at a glancing angle. Hooper lowers his binoculars. All right, he says, you win ugly. By nightfall, he's at the maintenance line, with a grease pencil, standardizing the mess. Pattern Alpha upper glacis, 6 links staggered in 2 rows. Pattern Bravo lower glacis, 8 links across with a vertical over the final drive seam. Pattern Charlie cheek applique, 2 links canted 45 degrees. He sketches U-bolt brackets that clamp to existing toe lug holes, and lifting eyes no welders needed. Motor sergeants love it. In 2 hours a crew can turn a soft-nose M4 into a bristling turtle. August 7th. Mortain. The German counterattack punches west in fog, Panthers and Panzer IVs from 2. Panzer Division and elements of SS Panzerabteilung 102 spilling through Le Neufbourg. C Company holds a ridge with the 120th Infantry's bazooka teams strung in the ditches. First contact comes from a StuG 3 lurking behind a haystack. Its 75 mm slams Calamity Jane square on the lower plate. The spare link blooms silver, the connector snaps, and the round skips down, plowing dirt a foot shy of the bow. Pierce answers with 2 quick shots. The StuG roof flips. Halvorsen keys the net. Tracks hold. Replace, forward right. On the company left, Rosie's bar, another Sherman sporting pattern Alpha, takes a Panther glancing hit high on the nose at 500. The round chews a track shoe into shrapnel and sails up over the turret. The driver flinches. The tank lives. A third tank, Sadie Hawkins, wears cheek applique. A long-range PAK-40 shot meets the canted links and veers just enough that it buries into cast armor without coming through. The bow gunner swears he felt it in his teeth. He also swears he'd like 2 more links by his knees. The pattern spreads under fire. A third armored platoon east of Juvidny bolts links in a barn lot at midnight, guided by Hooper's grease pencil diagram passed hand to hand. By dawn, they're nose-heavy and alive. The 4th Armored near Coutances adds a third, narrow band low over the differential bulge, the mustache, to catch skimmers. A maintenance chief in the 37th Tank Battalion figures out how to hang a spare bogey wheel in the center to break up shot streams. Someone in the 2nd Armored hangs a track link sideways over the bow MG collar and christens it the Adam's Apple. It isn't invincibility. One of C Company's new Jaws takes a close Panther hit that rips the panel clean off and still drills the plate. Another crew learns the hard way that 2 long bolts can act like spall studs, sending shards inward. Hooper fixes that with a bulletin. Use cut pins, peened flush. No protruding hardware. Crews adapt fast. They carry extra links on turret racks, pre-drilled connectors in tool bins, and a 2-pound sledge tied with cord to the bow. After every fight, someone's up front, smoking a Lucky, tapping a bent shoe off, and bolting a fresh one on while the gunner cleans optics. The ugly fix becomes a ritual. 2 days into Mortain, Hooper sends numbers up the chain. Of 23 recorded frontal hits on bolted track Shermans in his regiment, 9 that would have penetrated without the standoff became non-perfs or glances. 9 tanks that would have brewed didn't. He underlines it for the skeptical colonel. 9 crews retained. No one argues with math written in men. August 10th, 1944. The Falaise pocket begins to close, and the Shermans are chasing the retreat. Armor moves fast now, too fast for the supply trucks to keep up, too fast for maintenance to wait for replacement plates from the rear. The field fix is no longer an experiment. It's doctrine by necessity. Every tank that survives a hit shows proof. Bent track shoes, broken connectors, gouged but unpunctured armor. Crews start believing in it the way airmen believe in their lucky charms. Captain Leland Hooper formalizes the field data. His report to Division Ordnance lists track link armor assemblies as locally fabricated supplemental protection devices. But in the tank parks outside Mortain, nobody calls them that. They call them Briggs' teeth, after Halvorsen's middle name. It sticks. By the time C Company crosses toward Mayenne, bolt your teeth means armor up. The pattern evolves. Hooper's diagrams become stencils. Maintenance sections cut U-brackets from scrap angle iron, pre-drill holes, and stencil, front line, use only on the crates. The steel is salvaged from everywhere: wrecked German tanks, burned out Shermans, even abandoned farm plows. One welder, Sergeant Jimenez from the 3rd Armored's maintenance platoon, figures out that German track links, with their deeper cleats and harder steel, give better protection, but weigh twice as much. Crews mix them American tracks up top for weight balance, German down low for bite. The result looks like a patchwork of black and silver scars. It's ugly, effective, and unstoppable. August 13th, outskirts of Argentan. The Germans have dug in along a ridge near Écouché. 2 Panthers from 9. Panzer Division hold the road, hull down behind wreckage. The Shermans of C Company are ordered to advance across open stubble, nothing but burnt wheat and craters. Range: 800 yards. Suicide distance. Halvorsen rolls Calamity Jane forward, feeling every vibration through the hull. They've doubled their armor in the last 48 hours, 2 full rows of links welded across the bow and a 3rd band wrapped up over the driver's hatches. The tank's front end droops a little, but it moves. At 600 yards, the first Panther fires. The round hits low, left of center. The impact slams the Sherman sideways. The bow erupts in dust. Rizzo shouts, "Hit!" But the tank keeps rolling. When the dirt clears, a crater the size of a helmet sits where the lower track links used to be. The projectile didn't get through. The Panther's gunner fires again, higher. The second round glances off the upper row of links, ricochets skyward in a white-hot arc, and vanishes. Halvorsen yells, "Steady!" Pierce aims, fires, and the 76mm round slips under the Panther's mantlet. The explosion tears the turret loose. The second Panther backs up, trying to turn, but the Americans are already closing the range. After the fight, Hooper walks the ground. He kneels beside Calamity Jane's scarred nose, studying the mangled track links. He digs the first German shot out of the dirt. It's deformed, the armor-piercing cap shattered on impact, with the track shoe's curved face. It hit at 12 degrees. Yaw, he mutters. Cap broke before the body reached the plate. He looks up at Halvorsen. That extra inch of air between the links and the hull saved you. Halvorsen shrugs. Then we'll keep it. That night, in a barn outside Écouché, maintenance crews rebolt and rehang fresh shoes. The smell of oil and hot metal fills the air. Tankers trade notes like mechanics. 2-inch air gap works better than flush. Use staggered shoes to deflect left. Angle the edges down, so mud slides off. The men who last month were just fighting for survival are now field engineers refining. Battlefield geometry by torchlight. German intelligence notices. Captured prisoners from 2. Panzer report that tankers have begun calling the modified Shermans Kettenpanzer track tanks. One Panzer commander complains in his debriefing. They have teeth now. You hit the nose, the shot jumps away. It is not fair. The reports filter upward to German high command, but the front collapses faster than memos can move. By August 16th, the 2nd Armored Division's after-action summaries show numbers that make staff officers stop reading and start calculating. Out of 42 recorded frontal hits on Shermans with bolted tracks in the past week, 19 failed to penetrate. That's nearly half. And each non-penetration means 5 men still alive. That's 95 men saved in 7 days. Hooper writes it down, then underlines it. 95 men, one idea. But physics isn't free. The added weight strains suspensions, warps bow plates, and eats fuel. Drivers curse the sluggishness. Crews burn clutches climbing slopes. The extra mass drops top speed by 3 miles per hour. Maintenance records show cracked volute springs and bent toe lugs. Division HQ circulates a cautionary order. Use only necessary track link additions. Excessive weight reduces mobility. Hooper forwards it to Halvorsen with a note. They'll complain until it saves them. On August 19th, near Falaise, that proof arrives again. A Panther shell hits Rosie's bar square in the face at 400 yards. The front track row disintegrates, bolts shear, and the blast punches mud through the driver's viewport, but the tank keeps moving. The gunner kills the Panther seconds later. When the battle's over, a corporal from 37th Tank Battalion pulls a bent connector off the hull and hangs it around his neck with a bootlace. He calls it a saint's medal. Within a week, dozens of tankers are wearing the same thing. Flattened track pins from shots that didn't make it through. The extra links aren't just armor now. They're superstition made steel. By the time the pocket closes on August 21st, nearly every Sherman in 2nd Armored carries the modification. Some neat, some chaotic, some welded solid, others bolted loose. The crews don't care. They've learned a rule no manual ever printed. If you can't outgun the enemy, outlast his bullet. And the only thing standing between them and fire is 3 inches of old track, 6 bolts, and a man's decision not to die easy. August 23rd, 1944. Outside Argentan, the dust hasn't settled, but the Shermans keep rolling east. German rear guards, what's left of them, fight from villages and hedgerows, using their AK-42s like sniper rifles. The fields are littered with wrecks, most burned from single hits. But among the smoking hulks, the odd survivor stands upright, paint blistered, glacis blackened, but not pierced. A Sherman with teeth. Halvorsen's Calamity Jane leads the column toward Trun. Her front looks like a scrapyard, welded together track links, bogey wheels, bits of German track. She's picked up an extra 1,000 pounds since St. Lo, and the bow dips low like an old bull. The radio crackles with reports of new German anti-tank guns, Panzer IVs firing from 1,000 yards, Panthers still roaming. The men inside the tank don't bother discussing armor thickness anymore. They talk in different terms. It'll bounce, or it won't. The bounce becomes legend that afternoon. They crest a ridge overlooking a French hamlet, stone barns, apple trees, a single narrow road cutting through. A pack 40 fires from the far end of the street. The round slams straight into Calamity Jane's bow, hits the center row of track links, and detonates. The crew hears the crash, feels the slam, but nothing comes through. The entire front of the tank is blackened, smoking, the middle links bent backward like torn teeth. Rizzo yells, "It stopped it again!" Halvorsen doesn't answer, he's already firing. One AP round into the barn, second into the gun. The pack disappears behind dust and debris. When they climb out after the firefight, they find the impact crater gouged half through a German track shoe. The nose of the round is flattened, the cap shattered, the armor plate behind unbroken. The physics are brutal but simple. The spare tracks did 3 things at once: broke the cap, forced a bad angle, and stole the round's velocity before it hit the real armor. It turned German precision into random chance. By now, even the doubters are converts. In division parks, maintenance sergeants have stopped questioning and started innovating. The 4th Armored begins bolting tracks not just to the bow but up the sides of the turret mantlet, following Halvorsen's sketches. The 3rd Armored hangs them along the flanks to guard ammo racks. The 2nd Armored mounts an entire extra bogey wheel on each cheek as a crude deflector. The tank park at Le Mans looks like an iron graveyard reborn, spare steel transformed into lifelines. Captain Hooper documents every version. His reports turn from skepticism to advocacy. Supplemental track armor reduces effective penetration probability by 38% against 75 mm APCBC at sub-600 yard engagements. In plain language, every 3rd shot that should have killed a tank doesn't. He sends the figures to 1st Army Ordnance at Avranches. The reply comes back the next day. Field modification approved for continued application. And just like that, what started as one man's backyard fix becomes official doctrine. Field manuals don't change, but tankers do. Units advancing toward Paris adopt the look like a uniform rows of spare tracks across the hull, side skirts of linked steel, some even hanging chains or extra road wheels to protect soft points. The Germans start noticing in intelligence briefings. An SS Panzer regiment near Dreux reports, American medium tanks now carry track armor, resembling makeshift applique, effective against our 75 mm when angled. One German officer calls them Eisenmäuler iron jaws. But the new armor brings new problems. Weight distribution shifts forward, suspension arms crack. Some crews lose steering control on rough ground. A Sherman designed for 33 tons now carries 34 or 35. The extra steel drains horsepower and burns clutches. Drivers curse, mechanics complain, but no one removes the tracks. The superstition is too strong. August 25th, outside Paris. C Company supports the 4th Infantry Division's final push toward the city. German resistance is desperate, improvised anti-tank barricades, hidden 88 seconds, snipers in every window. Halvorsen's platoon advances through a suburb near Arpajon. The streets are narrow, flanked by stone walls and parked wagons. A Jagdpanzer IV fires from 300 yards down the boulevard. Its 75 mm shell hits Rosie's bar dead on the upper glacis, exactly where it should kill. Instead, it glances off the spare links welded there, carves a groove across the turret, and skips into the wall beside a French cafe. Rosie's bar fires back and kills the German in one shot. The crew climbs out, shaking, laughing, covered in brick dust. Halvorsen runs a gloved hand over the black scar where the round hit and didn't go through. "There's your test," he mutters. She's still smiling. In Paris, news spreads faster than tanks move. Engineers from other divisions photograph the field mods, sketch the mounting points, measure the angles. An ordnance officer from the 12th Army Group interviews Halvorsen in a city square still echoing with gunfire. He asks where the idea came from. Halvorsen shrugs. "I got tired of watching fire come through the floor. Back at the front, Hooper crunches new numbers. 312 Shermans in 1st Army now carry field-mounted track armor. In 2 weeks, reports record over 300 non-penetrations from frontal hits that would have killed crews before. It's not indestructible, but it's enough. Enough to keep tanks in the fight, to keep men breathing. The 1st Army's operational loss rate for M4S drops by almost 1/3 in August alone. Halvorsen's fixed scrap, steel, bolts, and an idea has saved 300 tanks in days. Command takes notice. Headquarters drafts Technical Bulletin TB, ORD 37, application of supplemental track link armor, field type. The note is terse. Modification authorized. Units may fabricate as materials permit. No ceremony, no medal. Just permission to keep surviving. The crews don't need recognition. They've got proof, welded to their hulls. Each bent track shoe is a story, each flattened link, a second chance. And in those few weeks between Normandy and Paris, the Shermans stop being easy kills. They stop being jokes to German gunners. They become something new, machines that learn to fight back with their own scars. August 27th, 1944. The liberation of Paris is barely over when the tanks start rolling east again. The road to the Seine is a conveyor belt of Shermans soot-streaked, patched, and armored like iron porcupines. Mechanics don't even call them Shermans anymore. They call them bricks. Every one of them wears steel track links across the bow and turret cheeks. To the men who drive them, it isn't a fashion, it's survival bolted on. Halvorsen's Calamity Jane leads a column toward the Marne River crossings near Meaux. The city's stone bridges are intact, but German guns cover every approach. Division orders: cross at dawn, secure the east bank before counterattack. The crews hunker down for the night in a beet field. Hooper and the ordnance boys are already crawling under tanks, checking for cracks in suspensions. The track armor has taken a toll. Springs groan, bogie wheels squeal, and drivers curse every turn. Hooper doesn't care. He has new numbers. Out of 108 hits reported on 2nd Armored Shermans since the start of the Paris breakout, 64 failed to penetrate. That's nearly 60%. He writes it in grease pencil across the hood of his Jeep. 60% survived. Halvorsen sits beside him, tightening the bolts on a fresh set of links scavenged from a burned-out M10. "You ever think we'd be counting steel like lives?" Hooper doesn't answer. He doesn't have to. Both men know the math. One track link. One more chance to come home. Dawn, August 28th. The crossing begins. German shells scream in from the opposite bank, high-velocity rounds from Paquet, 43 seconds. The dreaded long barrel, 88 seconds. The first hit lands on a Sherman from D Company, right on the nose. The blast blows mud 30 feet high. When the smoke clears, the tank's still moving, its bow blackened, track shoes half gone but holding. The driver reports on the net. Ricochet. Still rolling. Hooper watches it through binoculars. "It's official," he mutters. They're bouncing 88 seconds. The battle lasts 4 hours. The Shermans advance through the town under constant fire, using rubble for cover, their fronts pitted but intact. When it's over, 12 tanks are damaged but not destroyed, every one of them carrying bolted track armor. 3 others, still using unmodified hulls, are smoking craters. The contrast is brutal and irrefutable. The extra tracks aren't superstition anymore. They're the reason men get out of burning tanks instead of dying inside them. By noon, Hooper files his formal report. Field modification proven effective against 75 mm and 88 mm at shallow impact angles. Recommend retention until permanent appliqué issued. The phrase, permanent appliqué, will take months to mean anything. For now, the tankers keep scavenging. They raid wrecks, cut German tracks with torches, weld spare road wheels, wherever a flat plate shows. A fourth armored platoon even hangs track links across turret roofs to ward off plunging fire from elevated streets. It looks absurd, but when a German 105mm HE shell bursts overhead and fails to penetrate, nobody laughs. C Company becomes a traveling factory. Every bivouac turns into a metalworks, torches hissing, bolts clanging, sparks floating through the night. They run out of American track links by the Seine, so they start using Panther links instead, bolting them across engine decks like scales. German steel saving American crews. The irony isn't lost on anyone. Guess they finally built something useful, Rizzo jokes, patting a row of salvaged links. Then comes the real test, September 1st, near Chateau Thierry. A counterattack by elements of the 2. SS Panzer Division. Panthers charge through the tree line, firing down the slope at 600 yards. The air fills with tracers and black smoke. Calamity Jane takes 2 hits in 10 seconds. The first slams into the lower glacis, tears away half a row of track links, and ricochets into the ground. The second strikes the upper bow, glances off the right cheek, and deflects upward into the trees. Rizzo's voice breaks over the intercom. No pen, still green. They return fire, 3 quick shots. One strikes the Panthers' turret ring. The German tank jerks, slews, and stops. Hooper's jeep arrives minutes later. He climbs the embankment, runs his hand over the cratered front of Calamity Jane. The paint is scorched black, 2 bolts sheared, but the armor holds. If this were July, he says quietly, you'd all be gone. The victory isn't measured in ground gained that day, but in what didn't burn. The after-action report from the 2nd Armored lists 8 confirmed saves from track-link armor. Hooper compiles it with similar reports from 3rd and 4th Armored Divisions. By the end of the first week of September, the tally reaches 300 tanks that took hits and survived. The Army calls it partial penetration failure. The crews call it something simpler. It stopped it. Division HQ finally notices. A major from Ordnance Command visits the line, notebook in hand, snapping photographs of every armored Frankenstein he can find. Who came up with this? He asks. The answer is a shrug and a name. Halvorsen, C Company, 66th Armored. The major finds him tightening bolts on his bow. You realize, he says, you've changed our spec sheets. Halvorsen wipes sweat from his forehead. No, sir. Just got tired of dying. A week later, technical bulletins start circulating. TBOR'd 43, Field Application of Track Link Armor Type H. It's the first time the Army uses Halvorsen's initial in print. The bulletin includes crude sketches of the modification and an efficiency note. Approximate protection increase, 25–40% against 75mm APC-BC. That night, someone in the 37th Battalion paints a new nickname on their Sherman's nose, Halvorsen's Hunch. The Germans, meanwhile, are learning the hard way. A captured report from Panzer Lehr reads, American tanks now impervious to frontal 75mm at common combat ranges. Only 88mm and close-range flank fire remain effective. That single paragraph travels faster than any division. It reaches Bradley's HQ, then Eisenhower's. Somewhere between St. Lo and the Seine, a sergeant's idea bolts, scrap, and defiance has shifted the balance of tank survival across an entire army. By September's first weekend, the extra tracks aren't just armor anymore. They're identity. Crews carve their initials into the links, paint them white for luck, or leave them blackened from battle as badges of proof. A tank's scars have become its story. And for the first time since Normandy, Sherman crews feel like they're driving something that can take a hit and hit back. Cullen had his hedge cutters. Halvorsen has his armor. Both started with junk steel. Both ended by saving hundreds of men. September 10th, 1944. The Allied advance stretches from the Seine to the Belgian border. The roads are choked with tanks, trucks, and half-tracks coated in dust. Every Sherman looks different now, some wearing spare track armor like chainmail, others with welded links thick as barn doors. The official supply lines haven't caught up, but the idea has. From Normandy to the Ardennes, every crew knows, if you've got spare tracks, you bolt them on. Halvorsen's Calamity Jane rolls through the outskirts of Mons, hull scarred and heavy, front end dragging from nearly 2,000 extra pounds of steel. The armor is a patchwork of histories: Sherman links, Panther segments, bits of Tiger track, even a few British Cromwell pieces. Each one has a story, each one stopped, something that should have killed them. The tank moves slower now, burns more fuel, but the crew doesn't care. Every extra pound feels like another layer between them and the fire. Division HQ finally makes it official. On September 12th, a memo circulates. Field-installed track, link armor to remain in service until factory applique becomes available. But everyone knows the factories won't catch up before the war's over. What Halvorsen and his men built with bolts and torch kits has become the Sherman's defining silhouette for the rest of the campaign. Hooper, now assigned to liaison duties with Ordnance Command, brings Halvorsen a stack of reports from other units. The numbers are staggering. From July 20th to September 10th, 1st and 3rd Armies report 3,180 Sherman hits recorded on the front arc. 1,210 failed to penetrate. Of those, more than half struck tanks carrying track armor. That's over 600 tanks, roughly 3,000 men who lived because someone thought to weld spare steel on their hulls. Hooper reads the numbers aloud, tapping each line with his pencil. 3,000 lives, he says quietly, and not one of them owes anything to the factory. Halvorsen just shakes his head. Don't tell me that. Just tell me how many more bolts we've got left. 2 days later, they find themselves outside Aachen, the first German city on the western frontier. The terrain changes: narrow streets, stone buildings, every corner a potential gun position. The enemy knows this ground and fights harder. Tigers appear again, dug into alleys and gardens like bunkers. Their long 88 seconds make even the best armor feel like paper. On September 14th, Calamity Jane and 3 other Shermans advance down a street lined with rubble. A Tiger 1 waits at the far end, hidden behind a wrecked bus. It fires first. The shell slams into Calamity Jane's upper glacis. The tank shudders, black smoke pouring from the impact point, but the armor holds. The track links 8 rows thick absorb most of the energy, deflecting the round upward into the building beside them. Halvorsen doesn't think. He fires back. 2 76mm rounds strike the Tiger's mantlet. The second penetrates. Fire bursts from its turret. When the smoke clears, Hooper walks down the ruined street, staring at the bow of Calamity Jane. The track links are shattered, molten at the edges. A few bolts have ripped loose, hanging like teeth from a broken jaw. But the armor plate underneath is intact. He looks up at Halvorsen standing in the hatch, face gray from smoke. "That's the first time I've seen a Tiger fail to kill a Sherman head-on," Hooper says. Halvorsen nods. "First time I've seen one die trying." That night, they remove what's left of the front tracks and replace them with new ones scavenged from a burned-out Panther. The pattern repeats across the division. Crews fix their armor between battles, hammering, welding, bolting through the night. The process has become ritual. The sound of torches and impact wrenches, the glow of sparks in the dark. It's not repair, it's renewal. The German army takes notice again. Captured Panzer reports from late September read, "American medium tanks now exhibit improvised armor with increased ricochet effect. Frontal fire often ineffective unless at close range or perpendicular impact. Panzer commanders adapt, aiming for the sides and turret rings. But the battlefield advantage is already shifting. Shermans live long enough to flank. The armor doesn't make them invincible, it just gives them seconds. Seconds are enough." By October, ordnance depots begin producing armor kits, using factory-cut track links and standardized bolts. They're officially called Supplemental Armor Kit, Tracklink Type M4A. The manual lists their purpose in sterile language: to provide limited additional resistance to kinetic energy penetrators at low obliquity angles. The tankers laugh when they read it. They already know what it means in plain English. Might stop the next one.